So, part 2 to this house on Main Street. Now, we've already established that there was a murder-suicide.
Possibly. Nothing confirmed, but possibly.
There's been 2 confirmed entities, one that is basically threatening you at this point, and then one that's making her presence well known. So, we've already discussed the normal occurrences that happened in the house. Now we're going to get to the stuff that basically could have been life-threatening or even very possessive.
Yeah. So, for a while, as I got older, because I had moved away and come back, I guess a specific person in my family had adopted some addictions, and in the course of those addictions had adopted study of the necronamicon and had a book of it in the home and would read from it.
Which, if you don't know what the necronamicon is, that is the Book of the Dead, inked in blood. And I'm not just saying that as like a reference to the Evil Dead franchise, but I'm literally saying that because there's actual legit necronomicons.
Etched in blood. So nobody really had looked far into that. So when things started to get worse, no one really knew why at first. Because they stayed kind of semi-aggressive, passive-aggressive. As they had increased, they hadn't really gotten bad. Until my stepdad had started going to church.
Ooh.
And basically he found God and started going to church, and he no longer was reading from the book, but the book was still in the home.
Yes.
Things started to get noticed really heavily when my firstborn would be at the home.
Okay.
He would stare off at things that were not there. He would talk to things that were not there that nobody else would see. And rooms crowded of people at the home. He would be really tired and drained when we would leave and go back to our own home. Started having weird nightmares and things along those lines. And then it started to affect other people pretty heavily inside the home. If I'd stay the night there, I wouldn't be able to sleep. Something would keep me up. I felt like there was a constant pressure on my chest. And at this point, I'm like 18, getting ready to turn 19 years old. I'm really young. Chest pain is not a thing for me.
So at this point, it would be like right around 2012, 2013.
The 2013 into 2014, maybe a little later.
Okay.
So, in that time frame, things at this point had gotten very, very uncomfortable in the home. If it was nighttime and you weren't asleep before the lights went out, you didn't sleep. You were up, trying to have it as bright as possible, trying to consistently be doing something. You had this constant feeling of being watched. You'd walk through the home and the heat would be blazing, and you'd walk through certain parts of the home and it'd feel like you just walked through a meat locker. And it would stay with you. It'd follow you. You could extend your arm and feel your hand get warm and your body still be cold. So at some point, my stepdad came clean to my mom, and my mom kind of spilled the beans to all of us that, hey, this is what's going on, and hey, he was doing seances and chants out of the book. Because it got to a point, I wouldn't go to the basement. Every time I went to the basement, I had so much pressure on my chest, and my feet became heavy. I couldn't move. And if I tried to move fast out of the basement, I got heavier. And it became harder and harder to move, almost literally like something was pushing on my chest and holding my feet down to keep me in the basement. And that's where the book was kept, was in the basement. So the pastors of the Lutheran church were sat down and talked to about everything going on. And they devised a plan that the first thing that needed to go was the book. So they took the book out of the home. They burned the book in a ritual and buried its ashes in 3 different locations. And bury all the ashes together. They spread them across 3 different locations. And then they waited a week. And that week was terrible. I had woke up with scratches. I was to a point where I felt I was being choked now, not pressure on my chest. I felt like someone was holding hands over my throat. I was having covers ripped off of me in the middle of the night. And I wasn't the only one. I was pushed down the normal flight of stairs that was usually safe, that came from the upstairs to the downstairs, on 3 separate occasions during that week. Slammed in doors. Doors that did not have locks on them were locked. You couldn't get out of rooms. Blinds would open by themselves in the pitch dark of night. Closet doors would open while you were sleeping, and you could hear them open. And all this stuff was told to them. So at this point, they wanted anybody that had had anything happen at the home while they were at the home in the home. So that was me, my son, my son's mother, and my mom, my sisters, and my stepdad. And my stepdad, where he was the main source of, like, if he was around, the activity was crazy that week. From when they burned the book to when they actually came back. The activity around him was insane. He would be sitting there and just stand up out of nowhere and, like, just a head dropped down, just standing there. You'd yell, and no answer. And he'd sit down. Like nothing ever happened. Nothing at all. And so they start doing this whole walkthrough thing. They blessed everybody in the living room. And then they formed a circle around him and had him start walking through the house so they could start blessing the rest of the house. And this is where it really got to a point of physicalness. We started hearing rumbling in the basement. Not growling, rumbling. Like somebody was beating on the floorboards. Mad. Like hitting it with a freaking sledgehammer. Not, like if you have upstairs neighbors hitting the ceiling with a broom. I'm talking, it sounded and felt like someone was taking a sledgehammer and pounding the floorboards. And as they started going down the stairs, it got louder and louder and louder until they hit the bottom of the stairs and it stopped. The silence was deafening. It felt like someone had to yell when they were sitting next to you for you to hear them. The silence was so loud. And that is weird to say, but that's the best way to describe it. And they're walking, and there is orbs everywhere downstairs. Everywhere. All around them. There were shadows moving around them. And they couldn't explain them. Nobody can explain what was going on down there. There was only 2 lights in the basement, so the shadows are only going to be one-dimensional. But shadows were moving into bright light and not disappearing. So, at some point, there was a loud scream, and the scream was from my stepdad. Mind you, he's standing in a circle of 4 pastors with crosses and holy water as they're reciting the same thing. And he drops to his knees. His shirt was ripped in 3 spots on the back, about 6 inches apart, each one of them. And the bottom one was about 8 to 9 inches long, the middle one about 12 inches long, and then the top one about 9 inches long. And the scratches had gone all the way through the shirt and actually cut his body open on his back. And he couldn't stand. They continued doing whatever they did down there. And then there were several items in the basement that were moving on their own. Those items were discarded of. And at that point, I made it a mission not to visit the home anymore unless I absolutely had to go down there. The most I would do was come down, sit on the front porch, things like that, and then I would leave. You weren't catching me inside the home. I wouldn't even use the bathroom inside the home. And activity did slow down quite a bit after that, to the point where it was just more of the normal stuff going on. That stuff was scary.
Now, there's a lot of things we can't explain in this world. We really can't. I think it might have been better for you to experience what you were experiencing before the Necronomicon thing. Because either way, I think they're just there for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with that.
yeah. But these things were like squatters in an abandoned hotel, basically.
Yeah.
They needed to get out, or else harm was to be brought on. Not just your stepdad, but you and a couple of others. Not just physically, mentally too.
Oh yeah.
Because if you think about a malevolent spirit, they attach themselves to you, and they will literally drain you of any life.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this should be it of the story.
Yeah, that's about it.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Please subscribe to the Punkcraft channel. Please hit that notification bell. And thank you for watching. Leave a comment. Bye!